The text came at 3:47 p.m. on Thursday, 2 days before Easter weekend. I was in my downtown office reviewing acquisition reports for Phoenix Real Estate Holdings, when my phone buzzed with a message from Mom. "Michael, don't come home for Easter. After what you've done to this family, you're not welcome here anymore. You're not family anymore after what you've done to your sister." I stared at the message for a long moment. What I'd done to my sister Sarah was refuse to give her husband $50,000 to cover his gambling debts. What I'd done to the family was suggest that maybe enabling his addiction wasn't helping anyone. I opened my photo gallery and scrolled to a document I'd photographed 3 months ago. A property deed with very specific details. I attached it to a reply message with no text and hit send. Then I sat back and waited. The photo showed the deed to 847 Maple Street, Riverside Heights, my childhood home where my parents had lived for 35 years. The deed clearly showed the current owner, Phoenix Real Estate Holdings LLC. What it didn't show, what my family had never bothered to learn, was that I was Phoenix Real Estate Holdings. My phone rang exactly 31 minutes later. "Michael." Dad's voice was shaky, confused. "We need to talk." "Do we?" "Because your last message said I wasn't family anymore." "Son, I'm looking at this deed you sent. There must be some mistake. It says Phoenix Real Estate owns our house, but we've owned this home for 35 years. You owned it. Past tense." "What do you mean past tense?" "Dad, remember 3 months ago when you called me crying about the reverse mortgage you'd taken out? When you said the bank was going to foreclose because Sarah's husband had stolen money from your account to pay off his bookie?" Silence on the other end. "Remember how I said I'd look into it? How I said I might know someone who could help?" "Michael, what did you do?" "I bought your house. I paid off the reverse mortgage, cleared all your debts and transferred the property to my company. You've been living there rent-free for 3 months. That's impossible. You're a security guard at some tech company. You don't have that kind of money." I almost laughed. After 10 years he still thought I was a security guard. "Dad, I haven't been a security guard in 8 years. "What are you talking about? You work security at that computer place downtown." "I own the computer place downtown. I own the building it's in. I own most of the buildings in downtown." The line went quiet for so long I thought he'd hung up. "Dad." "Michael, I don't understand what you're saying." "I'm saying that your failure, son, the one who couldn't even finish college, the one who wastes his life on get-rich-quick schemes, is actually worth about $2.7 billion. That's not possible. Check the business registry. Phoenix Real Estate Holdings, Phoenix Development Corporation, Phoenix Investment Group. All of them list Michael Torres as CEO and sole owner." "Michael, if this is some kind of joke." "It's not a joke, Dad. The family home you just banned me from, I own it. The car dealership where you bought Mom's SUV last year? The restaurant where you had your anniversary dinner? The medical center where Sarah gets her treatments? I own that too. Why didn't you tell us?" "I tried to tell you. Every time I mentioned expanding my little real estate thing, you told me to get a real job. Every time I talked about my investments, you said I was wasting time on fantasies. But you said you worked in security." "I said I worked in building security. I secure buildings by buying them." I could hear Mom in the background asking questions I couldn't make out. "Michael, your mother wants to know about Sarah's situation. Her husband's debts are not my responsibility. Sarah's husband has a gambling addiction that's cost your family over $200,000 in the past 2 years. Giving him more money won't solve the problem. But he says this time is different. Dad, he owes money to people who break kneecaps. That's not a family problem, that's a criminal problem. I offered to pay for rehab, to set up a payment plan with his creditors, to help Sarah file for divorce if needed. What I won't do is hand over cash that'll be gone in a week. So you let our house get foreclosed on? I bought your house to save it from foreclosure. I paid off every debt you had. I've been covering your property taxes, your utilities, your insurance for 3 months. All because I love you despite how you treat me. How we treat you. Michael, you've been lying to us for years. I've been trying to tell you the truth for years. You just never listened." I pulled up my company files on my computer while we talked. "Dad, let me give you some specifics. Remember when I told you I was investing in downtown properties? That was 2019. You said I should focus on getting promoted at my security job. You were working security. I was learning the real estate business from the ground up. I started by buying small apartment buildings, fixing them up, selling them for profit. Within 2 years, I had enough capital to start buying commercial properties. That's impossible on a security guard's salary. Dad, I was never making a security guard's salary. My first year in real estate, I cleared $600,000 in profit. Year 2, $1.2 million. By year 3, I was pulling in $3 million annually. If you were making that much money, why were you still living in that tiny apartment? Because I was reinvesting everything into the business. Every dollar went back into acquiring more properties. While you thought I was struggling to pay rent, I was building an empire. And you never thought to tell us? I tried to tell you. Remember Christmas 3 years ago? I said I'd bought the Harbor Point shopping center. You said, "That's nice, maybe you can get a job there." I heard Dad cover the phone and have a muffled conversation with Mom. "Michael, your mother says you told her you were looking at some investment properties. She thought you meant you were thinking about buying a small house." I was looking at investment properties. $37 million worth of investment properties. I bought the entire Harbor Point complex, plus the office building next to it, plus the parking garage across the street. $37 million? That was one weekend. Dad, do you remember the Riverside Mall renovation project that was in the news last year? The one that revitalized the whole downtown area. Of course. It was huge. Brought hundreds of jobs, millions in tax revenue. That was my project. Phoenix Development Corporation handled the entire renovation. I spent $80 million turning a dead mall into a mixed-use complex that now generates $12 million annually. You're saying you personally funded that project? I'm saying I own that project. The mall, the office towers they built, the apartment complex, the hotel, the restaurants, all of it. Another long silence. Michael, if what you're saying is true. It's true, Dad. I can send you financial statements, property records, business filings. I can show you my company's annual revenue report. We cleared $460 million last year. Why didn't you help Sarah earlier? I offered to help Sarah. I offered to pay for her husband's rehab, to cover the legal fees for bankruptcy, to set them up in one of my rental properties at no cost until they got back on their feet. Sarah said she didn't want charity from her wannabe entrepreneur brother. She said that. She said a lot worse than that. She told me my pretend business was embarrassing to the family. She said I should stop playing real estate mogul and get a normal job like normal people. Michael, we had no idea. You had no idea because you didn't want to know. It was easier to see me as the college dropout who couldn't get his act together. I could hear Mom crying in the background now. Son, what do we do now? That's up to you, Dad. The house is yours to live in for as long as you want. I'm not kicking you out. But I'm also not pretending anymore that this family respects me or values what I've accomplished. Of course we respect you. Dad, you just told me I'm not family anymore because I won't enable Sarah's husband's gambling addiction. Does that sound like respect? We were angry. We thought you were being selfish. Selfish? I've been anonymously paying for Sarah's medical treatments for 2 years. Her insurance doesn't cover the specialist she sees. I cover the difference. The experimental therapy she tried last year? I paid for that. The reason she can afford her medication? I set up a medical trust that covers all her healthcare costs. You've been paying for Sarah's treatments? Everything. Every doctor visit, every prescription, every treatment. Sarah thinks her insurance covers everything because that's what the billing department tells her. What actually happens is that Phoenix Medical Holdings covers any costs her insurance doesn't. Phoenix Medical Holdings? I own 17 medical facilities across the state, including the cancer center where Sarah gets treated. I could hear Dad putting pieces together. The Torres Medical Center that opened downtown last year. Named after Grandpa. I wanted to honor his memory. He was the only one in the family who believed I could build something meaningful. Michael, we owe you an apology. You owe me more than an apology, Dad. You owe me the respect of actually listening when I try to tell you about my life. But you said you worked in security. For the first 6 months after I dropped out of college, I did work security. Night shifts at office buildings, which is where I learned about commercial real estate. I met building owners, learned about property management, figured out how the business worked. And then Then I saved every penny I made, took out a small business loan, and bought my first property. A 4-unit apartment building that was about to be foreclosed on. I fixed it up, raised the rents, and sold it 8 months later for twice what I paid. That was 10 years ago? 9 years, 7 months. I've been in real estate full-time since then. I left security work after my first profitable sale. So when we've been asking about your job, I've been telling you about my job. I just haven't been explaining it in terms you wanted to hear. My assistant knocked on my office door. I motioned her in. Mr. Torres, your 4:30 appointment is here. The mayor wants to discuss the waterfront development project. I covered the phone. Tell him 5 more minutes. Dad, I have to go. I have a meeting with the mayor about a $400 million development project. The waterfront project? The one that's been in the news. That's mine too. Phoenix Development is the lead contractor. Michael, wait. About Easter. What about it? We want you to come home. Please. We need to talk about all of this. Do you want me there because you found out I'm wealthy, or do you want me there because I'm your son? We want you there because you're our son. The money doesn't matter. The money has always mattered to this family, Dad. Sarah's husband's money problems matter. My apparent lack of money mattered. The fact that you thought I was unsuccessful mattered enough to make you ashamed of me. We were never ashamed of you. Dad, you introduced me to your friends as our son who's still figuring things out. At family gatherings, you changed the subject whenever anyone asked about my work. You were absolutely ashamed of me. You're right. We were. And we were wrong. Yes, you were. Michael, what can we do to fix this? I looked out my office window at the city skyline. Half of what I could see belonged to me in some way. Buildings I owned, projects I'd developed, businesses I'd invested in. My family had spent nearly a decade seeing me as a failure while I quietly built one of the largest private real estate empires in the region. Dad, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to come to Easter dinner. But we're going to have some new ground rules. Okay. First, Sarah's husband is not welcome in my presence until he's completed a rehabilitation program. I'll pay for the program, but he has to complete it. Understood. Second, no more dismissing my business as playing entrepreneur, or suggesting I need to get a real job. I employ over 3,000 people across my companies. This is about as real as jobs get. Of course. Third, I want the family to understand something. I've been taking care of all of you for years, even while you treated me like a disappointment. I did it because I love you, not because you deserved it. Michael, we're grateful. I'm not finished. Fourth, from now on, when I tell you about my work, my investments, or my plans, I want you to actually listen. Ask questions. Show interest. Treat me like an adult who knows what he's doing. We will. And finally, I want a formal apology from the entire family. Not just for today's text message, but for a decade of treating me like I was wasting my life. You'll have it. Good. I'll see you Sunday at 2 p.m. Michael. Yeah. I'm proud of you, son. I should have said that years ago. You should have. But you're saying it now, and that's a start. After I hung up, I sat back in my chair and considered the conversation. 10 years of building an empire while my family saw only failure. 10 years of trying to share my success while they heard only pipe dreams. 10 years of proving myself while they waited for me to grow up. My assistant knocked again. Mr. Torres? The mayor is getting impatient. Send him in. Mayor Rodriguez entered with his usual confident stride, but I noticed him looking around my office with obvious appreciation. The custom furniture, the original artwork, the view that commanded half the city. Michael, good to see you. I wanted to discuss the timeline for the waterfront project. Of course. Have a seat. I also wanted to mention that the City Council is considering you for the Economic Development Award this year. Your investments have created over 15,000 jobs in the past 5 years. That's very kind. Between the mall renovation, the medical center, the waterfront development, and all your smaller projects, you've basically rebuilt our downtown district single-handedly. I smiled, thinking about my family's reaction when they learned about the award. Mayor, can I ask you something? Sure. What did you think when you first heard about Phoenix Real Estate Holdings 5 years ago? Honestly, I thought it was another out-of-state investment firm trying to flip properties for quick profit. I was skeptical. And now I realize you're the best thing that's happened to this city in decades. You invest in communities, not just buildings. You hire locally, you support local businesses, you actually care about the places you develop. That means a lot. Michael, can I ask you something personal? Go ahead. How did you build all this so young? You're what, 32? 31. And I built it by starting small, reinvesting everything and learning the business from the ground up. I also built it by not listening to people who told me I was wasting my time. Family pressure? Family dismissal. They thought I was playing games instead of building an empire. That must have been frustrating. It was. But it also motivated me. Every time someone said I should get a real job, I bought another building. Sunday arrived with typical spring weather. Sunny and mild, perfect for Easter dinner. I drove to my childhood home in my usual car, a 5-year-old Honda Civic. My family had always commented on my cheap car, not realizing I preferred to invest my money rather than spend it on status symbols. I parked in the driveway of 847 Maple Street and looked up at the house I now owned. It was a modest 2-story colonial, probably worth $300,000 in the current market. For me, it represented something much more valuable. The place where I'd learned the importance of family, even when family doesn't appreciate you. Mom opened the door before I could knock. Michael. She pulled me into a hug that lasted longer than usual. I'm so sorry. Hi, Mom. We have a lot to talk about. We do. Dad appeared behind her, looking sheepish and uncertain. Son, thank you for coming. Thank you for inviting me back. The living room felt smaller than I remembered, but it was filled with familiar warmth. Family photos, Mom's needlepoint projects, the old piano where Sarah and I had taken lessons as kids. Where's Sarah? I asked. She's coming. She wanted to talk to you privately first. And her husband? He's not here. He's checked himself into a treatment program. The one you offered to pay for. I nodded. Good. That's a start. Mom sat down across from me, twisting her hands nervously. Michael, we owe you an explanation. I'm listening. We never understood what you were doing. When you dropped out of college, we thought you'd given up. When you took that security job, we thought you were wasting your potential. And when I started buying properties, we thought you were taking risks you couldn't afford. We thought you were going to lose everything. So you decided to treat me like I'd already failed? Dad joined the conversation. We thought we were protecting you from disappointment. We thought if we kept encouraging you to get a stable job, you'd avoid financial ruin. Instead, you avoided seeing my financial success. We're seeing it now, Mom said quietly. Michael, I drove past the Torres Medical Center this morning. There's a plaque by the entrance dedicating it to your grandfather's memory. Grandpa believed in me when no one else did. He would be so proud. He would be proud that I built something meaningful. But he'd also be proud that I never gave up on family, even when family gave up on me. Sarah's car pulled into the driveway. Through the window, I watched my sister sit in her car for several minutes before getting out. She looked tired, older than her 29 years, worn down by stress and worry. She knocked before entering, unusual for someone visiting her childhood home. Hi, Michael. Sarah. I need to apologize to you. Publicly in front of Mom and Dad. She sat down heavily, the weight of recent events visible in her posture. Michael, I said terrible things about you and your business. I called you a dreamer, a wannabe entrepreneur, an embarrassment to the family. You did. I said those things because I was jealous. You dropped out of college and still managed to build something successful. I finished college, did everything right, and my life fell apart because I married the wrong person. Success isn't about following a prescribed path, Sarah. I know that now. Michael, Mom told me about the medical treatments. About how you've been paying for everything. You needed help. I could provide it. But you never told me. You let me think my insurance was covering everything. Would you have accepted help from your wannabe entrepreneur brother? Sarah started crying. No. I wouldn't have. I was too proud and too stupid. You weren't stupid, Sarah. You were scared and dealing with impossible stress. Michael, how much money have you spent taking care of this family? I calculated quickly. Medical expenses, mortgage payments, property taxes, debt relief, various other costs. Probably close to $800,000 over the past 3 years. The room went silent. $800,000, Dad repeated. It's not about the money. Michael, it is about the money. Mom interrupted. Not because money matters more than family, but because it shows how much you were willing to sacrifice for people who didn't appreciate you. You're my family. That's what family does. No, Sarah said firmly. That's what you do. That's who you are. The rest of us were too self-absorbed to notice. I looked around the room at 3 people who had spent years seeing me as their biggest disappointment, now realizing I'd been their biggest supporter. So what happens now? I asked. How we start over, Dad said. We start treating you with the respect you've earned and the love you've always deserved. And we start acting like real family, Sarah added. The kind of family that supports each other instead of judging each other. Michael, Mom said, we want to know about your business. Really know about it. We want to understand what you've built. It's a long story. We have time. So I told them. I told them about the first apartment building, about learning property management, about reinvesting every profit. I told them about the expansion into commercial real estate, about the development projects, about building a company that employed thousands of people and transformed communities. I told them about the sleepless nights, the financial risks, the moments when I doubted everything. I told them about the satisfaction of seeing empty buildings become thriving businesses, about creating jobs and opportunities for other people. The best part, I concluded, isn't the money or the recognition. It's knowing that I built something that makes communities better. And you did it all while we thought you were failing, Dad said sadly. I did it because Grandpa taught me that success means helping other people succeed. Even when those people don't believe in you yet. As we sat down for Easter dinner, I looked around the table at my family, flawed, stubborn, sometimes cruel people who were also capable of growth and love. The turkey was perfect, the conversation was genuine, and for the first time in years I felt like I was actually home. Michael, Sarah said as we finished dessert, I have a question. Shoot. The house we're sitting in, you really own it now? I do. Are you going to charge us rent? I smiled. Sarah, I bought this house to save it from foreclosure. I bought it to preserve the place where we grew up, where Mom and Dad built their life together. Why would I charge you rent to live in your own home? Because you're a businessman? I'm a businessman who's also a son and a brother. This house doesn't need to generate profit, it needs to generate family memories. Mom reached across the table and squeezed my hand. We love you, Michael. All of us. I love you too. All of you. Even when you're wrong about me. Especially when we're wrong about you, Dad added. That's when you need family love the most. Later that evening, as I prepared to leave, Dad walked me to my car. Michael, that award the mayor mentioned, the Economic Development Award? What about it? Your mother and I would like to be there when you receive it. You want to come to a business awards ceremony? We want to come watch our son get recognized for changing an entire city. It's just a plaque and a dinner, Dad. No, son. It's a chance for your family to finally see you the way the rest of the world sees you. I thought about that as I drove home to my downtown penthouse. Another property my family had never seen, another part of my life they'd never bothered to explore. But that was changing now. They were finally ready to see me clearly, to understand what I'd built and why it mattered. It had taken a decade and a property deed, but we were finally becoming the family we should have been all along. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Thank you for never giving up on us, even when we gave up on you. I replied, that's what family does. Because in the end, that's what it had always been about. Not proving them wrong, but loving them enough to wait until they were ready to be right.